I'd like to introduce you all to Sarah Daniels, the lead producer of the upcoming game Cubis Kingdoms, which we are all very excited about. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Can you tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been in the game industry since 2005 as a producer, designer, and creative director. And I came on board to work on Cubis Kingdoms as the creative director and lead producer for iWin.
So, what made you want to work with the Cubis franchise? Had you had some experience with it before?
I had, it's one of those games that's been around forever. So I think I found it in 2005 when I started working in the industry. And I remember the very first time I played, it was like this isometric board of all of these cubes stacked like 5 and 6 cubes high, and it was really intimidating. But people were also absolutely passionate about this game. And over the years, kind of keep an eye on Cubis, and it evolves because it, as a designer, it kind of pulls at you. Like, here is this really new take on a match three. Is it possible to get in there? And what would you do if you had the opportunity to play with this design? And so when iWin came to me early last year and asked if I would like to do a Cubis game for them, I, of course, jumped on board right away.
Oh, that's yeah. I remember Cubis from way back when too. It's just like an evergreen game, isn't it?
It is. It's been around a really long time, and it's evolved, right? I think that the traditional approach to Cubis was very much for the hardcore gamer, right? It was get in, and you have to be willing to really kind of grind away at the levels. You have to be willing to not get the cube that you need to make the move that you can see. And so as we've moved forward, and when I came on board and was kind of given carte blanche to play around with the mechanics a little bit, we came up with this new twist on it, and hence Cubis Kingdoms was born.
So kind of going on that direction. You talked a little bit about how the old Cubis games were, but what makes this game so different from the ones that we've seen in the past?
Sure, yeah, well, Kingdoms, it's in the title, right? So instead of just playing levels, which are great and fun and rewarding, we've actually kind of blown the walls off the sandbox a little bit and made a much more robust game. Um, so we still have that traditional match three mechanic on an isometric grid, but we've added a lot more. There are now consequences to all your matches, and each of our cubes contain magical elements, and those elements are then used to go and restore your kingdom.
Oh, that sounds really cool, actually. And being a Cubis player myself, I'm pretty excited to see what that ends up looking like. Um,
Yeah.
so as people are starting to get excited about this game, what should they expect from the new Cubis?
Well, they should expect a much richer experience than in the past and a lot more content. I think the game, well, I know the game actually, it has 200 levels, including bonus levels, which you can unlock at the end of each chapter. And then we've got this whole metagame that I just talked about. But you've got to even look at it broader than that. So we've got that core mechanic. I'm sliding cubes across an isometric grid to make matches. And what we've done is we've taken that basic premise and we've turned them into three different kinds of levels. So we have our main levels, which are making these matches, but now instead of the boards being static, they're dynamic. So what will happen is as you play, cubes will appear from below the board. So every time you play a level, say that you fail a level or you don't get 3 stars on a level, you go back and play, brand new experience. Then on top of that, we've got puzzle levels, which, if I'm honest, are kind of my favorite levels in the game because I think most of them have 6 to 10 moves, but if you can figure out the puzzle, you can solve some of these in 2 moves, and it's so rewarding. You shoot a cube, and it creates this cascade, and boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, the whole board is clear. So exciting. So those are scattered throughout the chapters. And then, because we've got a narrative in the game, we have our antagonists, which are gargoyles in this case. And when they catch on to the fact that you're restoring the kingdom, they get a little cranky and they come in, and that you have boss battles against them. So that'll happen a couple of times per chapter, and you actually have to play against them. And as you play, as you make matches and you're successful, they'll curse the board. And I'll tell you, the first one might be a little easy, but as you go up, it becomes a real challenge, and ends up, some people just live for those levels.
So what is the goal of each level?
Yeah, so the goal of each level is, in the main levels, you're actually trying to collect a certain number of elements. And you actually have to pay attention to that. Because, for example, you might have a lot of purple matches. In the game, purple is joy, right? So all of our colors mean something. Blue is water, red is ingenuity, purple is joy, orange is time, blah, blah, blah. So as you're making matches, you have to pay attention to those goals, because you might be collecting purple cubes like crazy, but if your goals are water and ingenuity, collecting a whole bunch of joy isn't going to help you pass that level. Then on the puzzle levels, you're trying to clear the board, and then on the gargoyle levels, you're trying to beat the gargoyle.
Okay, and so, and also we've been telling some of our players about some of the different elements of the game, like blockers and power-ups. We've been showing them some concept art
Right.
about those. So maybe you kind of want to tell us about each of those and what's cool about them compared to the previous Cubis games and other games in general.
Absolutely. Well, again, when we approached Cubis, one of the traditional pitfalls of Cubis is that it has this tendency to flatten out. So you come in and you get this known set of qualities, right? You get your normal cubes, you get your wedge cubes, you get a blocker, sometimes the blockers float, and then you get a laser and a bomb, and that's basically the recipe. So now when you go in, what we've done is we've created much more of an arc to the game. We've taken those power-ups out of the queue so they don't automatically load up, but then we've also infused the narrative into all of the elements of the gameplay. So where we had a laser before, now we've got this phoenix egg, and it's, this blast of fire that rips through the board and wipes out an entire row of obstacles and cubes. Our bomb has become this ermine based on pet ferrets, honestly, which are super cool. But what these little animals do is when they get super excited, they do this thing called a war dance. So they'll like roll and tumble and burst, and all of their legs will go out. And we thought that would be the best bomb ever. So now we've got these little ermines that you roll into your cubes and they explode ice. So we have those traditional power-ups are there, but they're more enhanced. They're given a lot more character. And then on top of that, we have cats that will wander around the board. We have holes, and you can use turtles to slide them into the holes and block them. We've got tar, we've got ice, we've got ravens that poop acid. We've got, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, and we've got portals, which show up at the very, very end. And when you get really close to beating the game, portals will open up and try to defy you.
Wow, this sounds so different than the Cubis games that I've played in the past. I think you obviously are very passionate about the game in general. But in looking at the game as a whole, what would you say your favorite part of the game is? If you can actually say one.
I can. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the cuteness. We had a couple of artists who were really whimsical and kind of silly in their approach to the art. And so what we've done in the metagame, instead of just creating a game where you're restoring a world, right? So you earn your elements and you come in and voila, you have a house, which is cute, but it's not nearly as rewarding as seeing life, right? So the underlying story of the game is, here's this world where through not necessarily evil intentions, but thoughtless intentions, all of the beauty of the world has been wiped out, and this curse has descended on it. Now you've got this opportunity to restore it, and as you restore it, all these critters come back. And so if you clear the board in the normal levels, it's such an extraordinary accomplishment. We wanted to reward it. So you get life elixirs, you get these little potion bottles. And if you get enough of these potion bottles on the map, you will see totems. And these totems are the spirits of these critters who have fled the kingdom. So when you restore these totems, all of these little animations come to life. And they're unique animations. We've got 6 different chapters in here. Each one evolves. You know, we go from the forest to the druids, to the icy mountains, to the university, to the bay where we've got pirates and everything else, to finally Capital City. And so as you play the game, all these little characters change and evolve, and they're scrumptious. Like they really, it's my favorite moment in watching other people play the game is when they see one for the first time and they're like so excited. My favorite quote is all of a sudden, one of our friends was playing and unlocked his first human, and he's like, "I've got Daniel Boone on my map." I'm like, "You do?"
That's so hilarious. So, I mean, like, kind of riffing on what you just said with your friend, what do you expect people's reactions are going to be when they see this game? Like, especially the really old-time hardcore Cubis lovers.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's kind of the question we ask ourselves all the time. We did play test the game, and we play tested it not just once. We play tested it a couple of times, and to that play test were invited existing Cubis players and then non-Cubis players. And the result was, the response was very positive overall. And what really touched me was how often people would finish the test, because it was a very limited access to the game, and they would finish and instantly write us and say, "Can I have more levels? I need to keep playing." So that's really exciting. What we do find with people who are hardcore, die-hard Cubis fans from the past is there's normally a moment of shock. There's normally a moment of, whoa, this is not exactly like all the other Cubises. But then as they play, I find it kind of delightful, because at first, there's that, oh, this isn't what I'm used to. And then they get their first 2 stars on a level. And then instantly they go in and they replay that. I'm figuring out this puzzle and I'm going to beat it. And so it's kind of one of those things, like, accept that your very first moment might be a little surprise. But I think if they play a couple of levels, they'll instantly start to catch on and realize exactly how much more we've opened up the Cubis universe.
Well, I, for one, am very excited by this explanation. I've also seen a lot of the screenshots and a video, which we'll probably show players later on. But I just think it sounds like one of the more exciting games that I've heard about in the last months or years, really. So thank you so much for bringing this to life.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing my enthusiasm. I can't wait to get it out the door.
All right. Well, we'll check back with you later once it launches, maybe, and with a couple more questions from players or something.
Excellent. That'd be great. Let's do that.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Larissa.
Bye.